Okay, we're going live. Give me 1 second, please. Hey, all right. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Believe we are live. Good morning, everyone. Oh my goodness, we have everyone, absolutely everyone. Thank you for being here. And welcome to the December, the last meeting of CPAC. Oh my goodness. I'm here to bring you joy. Good morning, everyone. And we are going to start the meeting. Can I please have a motion to start the meeting?
A motion to begin the meeting at 9:34 a.m.
Thank you, Caroline.
Bye.
Okay, and anyone would like to second it?
I second it.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, and we are starting the meeting. Let me put my beautiful slides up. Bear with me. I'm giving you a sneak peek. Okay. Hmm. All right. Good morning, everyone. Everyone is able to see my slides? Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. And we're starting the meeting. This is your CPAC Executive Board member for school year 2024-2025. If you have any questions, contact us. The email is it's also in one of the slides. CPAC procedures and standing rules are in the screen, but there are lots. Believe me, I know. So for that, we have Erica Newsom that would like to summarize it for us. Erica?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just make sure that you raise your hand and wait to be recognized before speaking. Be an active listener and stay engaged. Be respectful, kind, and professional. And don't forget, one mic, please. Please do not unmute yourself. No side conversations in the chat. We're all here to respect each other and no follow-up questions once your question has already been answered. Just to let you know about infractions, that we won't have to worry about these. There'll be a warning on the first infraction. You'll be muted for the rest of the meeting if the disrespect continues. And lastly, as a last resort, will be removed from the current meeting and will not be allowed back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. That was beautiful. And also, if you have not done so already, please put your district or borough in front of your name. Thank you. And just like Erica said, please one mic and please mute yourself. Okay, and now we have roll call by the amazing Randy.
Okay, just to let you know, there's a technical issue with renaming. They're not able to rename themselves, so I've been doing that behind the scenes. I will get to you as soon as I'm finished with roll call. So District 1,
Here.
District 2, District 3,
Here.
District 4,
Here.
District 5, District 6,
Present.
District 7, District 8,
Good morning, present.
District 9, District 10, District 11, District 12, District 14,
District 12 here.
12. Thank you, Christy. District 14, District 15, District 16. District 17.
Good morning.
Good morning, Veronica. District 19. District 20.
Here.
District 21.
Here.
District 22.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. District 24. District 25.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning, Rachel. District 26.
Good morning. Here.
Good morning, Adriana.
Good morning.
District 27. District 28. District 29.
Happy holidays, Priscilla here.
Good morning, Priscilla. District 30. Becca is in transit right now. Oh, she's walking in right now. Walking in. Yep. Okay, that's District 30, 31. 32.
Good morning, Ms. Jazzy Rivera present.
Good morning, Jazzy. District 75. Brooklyn High School, I am here. Bronx High School. Manhattan High School.
I am here.
Queens High School.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Shanette. Staten Island High School. Okay, was there anyone I missed?
I just logged in.
I got you, Becca. All right, I will hand the floor back over to the chair.
Yes, we have quorum. We have literally almost everyone. Yay. Okay. Thank you so much. And let me get to the next page. If this can work, that'd be awesome. Yay. Okay. So the agenda, as you can see, we had the roll call. We're doing the business and updates. We are gonna have Lainey Hampson present about the class size law. We're having NYPD about safety and awareness on subway surfing. We're also going to have a discipline code by the Office of Safety and Youth Development, Mr. Mark. We're also having our amazing Chancellor, Melissa Aviles Ramos. We're going to have Executive Director Cristina Melendez with face updates. Amazing updates, by the way. And we're also going to have a new segment, CPAC liaison Anthony Aguilar with the Anthony's Hot Topic. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then we're going to have hopefully time for district updates. So every single district and borough that would like to have an update is welcome to do so. And unfortunately, we don't have the October minutes, but yes, we do have the November minutes, which was already sent out. And we are going to leave that for the last, just because I want everyone to have a little longer opportunity so they can review the minutes and we can adapt it later on. And then we're going to adjourn. All right. And this is the calendar of our meetings and executive meetings. If you haven't seen it, it's also in the CPAC website. Please check it out. We have a lot of information in the website, and it's good for you guys to review it, to see it, to learn. There's resolutions, there's letters. All of our emails are in there, and see. And if anyone has any suggestion for the agenda or educational presentation, please send it to us. We want to know how we can work together, continue to work together. And just get to know your chairs for the CPAC committees. The capacity building and support, Francis Gonzalez. I don't know if they have changed, but I will find out by the next meeting. The communications are handled by Randy Garay. The high schools, Shirley, we did meet, by the way. Legislative Committee, Charlene Dawson. Multilingual Language Learners by Jassy Rivera. The Special Education Committee by Adriana Alicia. The Title I Committee by Jimmy Brown. The Wellness, Health and Safety by Maddie Gonzalez. The Alumni Committee by Shirley. If you have any questions, again, if you want to sign up or you have any concerns or any suggestions, please visit the website, cpacnyc.com. You can see it in the screen. Please just check it out. There's a lot of information. Okay, let us now go to our presenters. Give me 1 second to stop the share. Okay, and the first we have Lenny Hansen. Let me give you co-host, and you are good to go.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you to everyone at CPAC for allowing me to speak today. I'm going to share some slides about the DOE's implementation of the class size law. So I have a lot of data here. I will be making this presentation available online and sending it to Rosa, so you don't really have to take notes. But there's a lot to go over, and so I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. Just a recap on what the law says. It was passed in June 2022 and then signed by the governor in September 2022 with giving DOE an extra year to comply. The law requires New York City to provide a 5-year class size reduction plan that will cap class sizes in all classes to no more than 20 students in grades K through 3, 23 students in 4th through 8th grade, and 25 in high school classes by September 2028. All classes except for phys ed and performing art group classes, which will be limited to 40 students instead of 50, which is what it is in the current UFT contract. An additional 20% of all classes are supposed to be achieving these caps each year. Students with the highest level of poverty should have their classes reduced first. Some exemptions are allowed in the law, but only with the agreement of the UFT and the CSA, which we will go over a little bit later. Where are we now? We are now in the second year of the 5-year phase-in. We were supposed to be at 40%, and we are at 40%. However, we were at more than 40% when the law was passed, and actually class sizes have increased since then, mostly due to enrollment decline. But class sizes did increase in most schools after the law was passed because of ongoing school budget cuts and enrollment increases last year, meeting 60 to 100% in years 3 to 5, extremely unlikely without significant changes in DOE's policies and practices. Contrary to what the law requires, DOE has still not developed nor implemented a real 5-year plan, especially one that will provide the necessary space. So here's a slide that comes right out of the DOE's November 15th class size reports. And you can see, if you look closely, that class sizes have indeed increased at all levels since November 2021, before the class size law was passed. So essentially, we've been moving in the wrong direction. Here is class size compliance according to school district. You can also see a huge range in compliance across the city. These are all the schools in each of the districts, 25% in District 26 to 81% in District 23. This is just for grades K through 3. Compliance ranges from 19% in District 28 to 80% in District 5. This is 4th through 8th grade. You can see compliance ranges from 23% again in District 28 to 87% in District 23. And high school classes ranging from 26% in District 26 to 80% in District 23. So what this variation pretty much measures, not completely, but is strongly correlated with school overcrowding. So what are DOE proposals to reach the caps next year, in which we're required to meet the 60%? Principals, in consultation with their school leadership teams, can apply for additional funds to lower class size. The deadline for these applications is December 20th, which is coming up in 8 days. The process is completely voluntary, and no total funding is announced, nor how many teachers will be hired with these funds. DOE says schools can only apply if they have available space for smaller classes without affecting current programming. Yet more than half of principals responded to a DOE survey last year saying they do not have enough space to lower class sizes to mandated levels. That was 650 out of 1,280 respondents. Last year's Blue Book that we looked at and analyzed reports that at least 428 schools were overutilized, enrolling over 325,000 students. And as many of you probably realize, the Blue Book often underestimates the actual level of overcrowding in schools. And last year, the percent of students in overcrowded schools actually increased in 2/3 of districts. So this is more analysis from the Blue Book showing the increase in overcrowding at most levels citywide, except for high school. And what's really disturbing is the highest level of overcrowding is at the elementary school level at 43%. The only strategies DOE is offering for schools for next year to expand classroom space is to fully use and repurpose existing space without affecting programming, go to multi-sessions. Many overcrowded schools, high schools already have multi-sessions, so and this really only applies to high schools, though it is potentially useful for middle schools, but most middle schools do not want to go to multi-sessions. Expand online learning, especially with the previous chancellor, there was a big push on this, but I think most parents experienced with COVID that online learning did not work well for their kids. And I just want to emphasize that this should never be done without parent consent. We filed a complaint to the DOE, which because they had said that students could be assigned to online classes before parents consented. We did a complaint to the commissioner, and DOE did change their guidance on this. But your kids should not be assigned to any online class without your prior consent. And at a recent CEC meeting, a DOE official in charge of implementation, Aaron Gahant, actually added a new potential way of creating more classroom space when a parent asked, why can't some pre-K and 3K classes be moved into nearby CBOs, which have thousands of empty seats and are often struggling economically because of all their empty seats. And Aaron Gahant said, yes, you can apply to do that as part of your application. She didn't give any assurances that DOE would assent to that, but that is an important new potential, especially for elementary schools, if they want to create more space for class size reduction. As I said, many schools will still not have the space to meet the 5-year class size goals. I was on the class size working group along with Rosa and some others on this call. One of the things we recommended was that schools be able to cap enrollment to lower levels if there are underutilized schools nearby. Often there are. We proposed guardrails so that no student would be forced to attend school far from home. And that they shouldn't be forced to attend a school more than a half an hour by walking for elementary schools, half hour by public transport or school bus for middle school students, no more than 1 hour on public transport or school bus for high school students. As you know, many students already, by choice, attend schools much further away, but we don't want to force that. But by refusing to allow any schools to cap their entering classes next year, even when there are underutilized schools nearby, it will be difficult for many schools to meet their fourth and fifth year targets without transferring students out of the school, existing students, causing unnecessary disruption. And if there was one thing that everyone on the class size working group agreed on and everyone at DOE agreed on, is that we don't want to ever do that. Force transfer students out of their existing school. This would only be for entering classes. Another issue that we're very concerned about is in their recent presentation, DOE has proposed that all over-enrolled schools be forever exempted from lowering class sizes, especially if there are underutilized schools nearby, claiming this is the result of high demand rather than a lack of space caused by their own enrollment policies. And yet, DOE, we know, controls enrollment in a non-transparent manner that we believe hurts both sets of schools. And why do I say that? Well, obviously, if you allowed capping enrollment when there are underutilized schools nearby, it would benefit students at the overcrowded schools, which would allow them not only to have smaller classes, but also access to lunch, gym, and other facilities at more reasonable times. Right now, many kids have to eat lunch early in the morning or late in the afternoon and don't even get access to their gym or playgrounds at mandated intervals. Currently, under-enrolled schools would receive larger budgets and thus would be better able to provide art, music, advanced coursework, and all the other programs and services necessary for a quality education. More evenly distributing enrollment over time could also lead to more economic and racial diversity, because the most overcrowded schools tend to be heavily white and Asian, and the most underutilized schools tend to be mostly Black and Latino. And of course, it would save years of time and billions in school construction costs as well. We also know that DOE already allows enrollment caps in some schools for the purposes of controlling class sizes. They already do it in order to meet the U of T contractual class size levels, which are not in state law, only in contracts. Principals at certain high-demand elite schools are allowed to cap enrollment and offer class sizes at much lower levels. So why shouldn't this happen at other schools, less privileged schools? For example, the special music school in District 3 receives about 400 applications per year for kindergarten, yet admits only 15 students, enabling class sizes of 15 or less in grades K through 5. The Bard Early College High School in Manhattan and Queens receives more than 5,000 applications for ninth grade each year and accepts only about 150 students, allowing class sizes of 24 or less in all classes. So it's a non-transparent policy that is highly inequitable, and in my view is really preventing all schools to be able to provide the kind of quality education that students deserve. But in any case, whatever you do with capping enrollment, we will need a much accelerated plan for school expansion and construction, especially in the most overcrowded districts. We would never solve this problem alone by capping enrollment, because there are many districts in which nearly all schools are overcrowded. Yet DOE has made little effort to do this, and instead, after the class size law was passed, cut funding for new capacity by $2.5 billion. And though they recently added $2 billion for new capacity, they did it only because the state budget required them to do that. And especially Senator Lieu said they could not raise borrowing for all sorts of uses for capital construction unless they added $2 billion to create more space for class size reduction. But in any case, there will be a declining number of seats completed over the next 3 years because of past budget cuts that happened before this, and the School Construction Authority has refused to say where 70% of the seats funded with that money will be located according to district, sub-district, or grade level. And now they propose, the DOE, that even in areas where all the schools are overcrowding, they should not have to lower class size if there is an intention to build more schools at some indeterminate time in the future. But this, we believe, clearly violates the law that says any exemption based on available space shall include a reference to the capital budget to demonstrate that the budget is aligned with resolving the exemption status. My reading of that is that there needs to be funding and specific citing of schools in areas that need it to reduce class sizes. In their recent proposals, they've also put forward at least 2 other potential exemptions, neither of which are mentioned in the law either. DOE proposes that any school should be exempted if there are 5 or less students per grade over the cap. This may not be a big deal for large schools, but for small schools where there's only 1 grade per school, that's a big deal. Also, any school should be exempted if they are sent more students mid-year by DOE. As I mentioned, neither of these exemptions are mentioned in the law, even if the unions would agree to them. Instead, DOE should be required to provide more funding to hire teachers if either of these events occur, as they are already required to do when class sizes violate the U of T limits. So here are some charts looking at what's happened over time in the capital plan. These are various iterations of the past and the current capital plan, and you can see how new capacity has been systematically cut over the years, especially starting in February 2022. The blue line is actual seats to be built and funded. The blue line are seats to be designed. The green line is the actual funding for seats to be built. And so in the current new capital plan, there are only 19 schools or annexes in 11 districts that are actually planned, with 33,417 seats funded. But 69% of them, and you can see that over on the right hand, more than 23,000 seats are completely unspecified as to district, sub-district, or grade level. In other words, they haven't told us where they intend to build these schools, what the effect would be, and it's completely, undetermined at this point. From both capital plans, we put together where the seats, how many seats are going to be built, and you can see their declining numbers over the next couple of years. And then September 2028, which is the deadline for full phase-in implementation of the class size plan. They're only going to be less than 20,000 seats projected to be completed by that deadline. And then this is the same data according to district, where the seats are going to be ready by September 2028. And you can see it's 16 districts and high schools in 3 boroughs. More than 14,000 of these seats, by the way, are carried over by the previous capital plan. Seats that were not built, but funded in the previous plan. And so I just wanted to show you this because one of the things the city is doing, spending a lot of money building new borough jails, and they're planning to spend almost twice as much for new borough jails that they are for new schools. And to make things worse, district planning has been going around to CECs, presenting proposals through this year and next year for changes in school utilization, including school closures, co-locations, grade expansions, and other changes in school buildings without any mention of how this could affect class size or even hamper efforts to lower class sizes in these schools in the future. In previous years, these presentations did include some class size data, but district planning stopped doing this after the class size law was passed. When asked why, in several CEC meetings that I witnessed, district planning staff responded that DOEs told them not to mention class size and to totally ignore this issue in making their proposals for school utilization. And this is particularly disturbing because if there was a real plan to provide space for class size reduction, it would be done at the district level by district planning, and enrollment planning and capital planning would have to really collaborate on this, but there's been no efforts in that direction as far as we can see. So what are we recommending that schools do? We are recommending that SLTs and principals should apply for as much class size funds as they need for staffing to reach the new caps. And remember, the deadline is very close, only 8 days away. For elementary schools, they should consider asking to move the 3K and pre-K classes to nearby CBOs, which not only would help those CBOs survive economically, but would also potentially provide more full day and full year, extended day and extended year to parents, which they really need because CBOs have the potential of offering that. If your school is in an area where all nearby schools are overcrowding, we really believe that you should be demanding that DOE build more schools in your community. At this recent CEC meeting, the DOE pushed that all off on the SCA, which is really kind of deceptive because it's the DOE that controls the SCA, the mayor and the DOE, all 3 appointees on their board are mayoral appointees, and the chancellor really runs the show there. So it's the DOE that makes those decisions, and they should be pushed, as well as the mayor, to be building more schools in an accelerated fashion. And if your school does not have sufficient classroom space, and there are underutilized schools nearby, you should ask that your enrollment be capped anyway, and point out that if you cannot do that, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to attain the caps in years 4 and 5, because as kids move upward through the grades, you don't want to expel any of them or force them to transfer out. What should parents do? We have a resolution that CPAC, as well as CECs and other parent groups, could consider with these provisions. Of course, you can adapt it in any way you like if there's anything that you want to add or subtract. We also have a petition online at that link, and I'll put the links in the chat. If you're willing to meet with your elected representatives about this, either at the state or the city level, please email us because we're going to be setting up more meetings. And please sign up for our newsletter if you're not already subscribed to keep updated as to next steps. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I think that, Rosa, we have time for some questions. Is that right?
Yes, yes, we do. If anyone has any question, please raise your hand. Yes, Queens, you have the floor.
I was muted,
Thank you,
sorry.
Mute.
Good morning. So we had our SLT meeting this week, and we looked at trying to create courses to support the initiative. This was our first meeting in addressing class size issue. I have a question. When they say teachers to hire, does it include guidance counselors, college advisors in that bucket?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Not
all
in
right.
my reading of the law, but it would include specialty and cluster teachers. So, but not special education teachers in self-contained classes, because
Okay.
those classes are already limited by law at smaller levels. It doesn't include pre-K and 3K because those classes are also limited by law in terms of class size, but all other academic and specialty extracurricular classes, yes.
Okay. And if you're not able to have the space, would the accommodation be then if you chose to do shift? I know it's a follow-up question. I'm sorry, I apologize. To do shift system, if you have shift in place but not using it, would that be the same?
Multi-sessions is
Yeah.
something that they are encouraging and allowing, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have District 29 that wasn't able to raise your hand. You have the floor, and then District 3 and 17.
Thank you so much. This is an amazing way to close out this year. Very relevant. You mentioned that schools can cap enrollment if schools are available with nearby space. So I wanted to know more about if students will be eligible for busing with that respect. Let's say if the student had to travel in a 3 to 4 fare zone, particularly with exception schools that sit on 2 districts.
So this is a policy decision that I think DOE would have to make, but I know that there are rules already as to what students are available in terms of Metro cards and school busing. Depending on distance from the school, it's a complicated system that I don't fully understand. It depends whether there's a bus route already, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I can just tell you what the class size working group did recommend, that no student would be forced to attend school far from home. And that if all, and I think I went through those conditions initially, that they shouldn't have to be forced to attend an elementary school more than a half an hour by walking, a middle school more than half an hour by public transport or school busing, and a high school student more than an hour by public transport or school busing. Whether or not the DOE would provide school busing for kids in those conditions is something that, would be, up to them. But so far, they are not agreeing to any capping of enrollment, which could potentially mean if enrollment continues to increase, that could exempt or exclude more than half of all schools and more than half of all students from ever having the benefits of smaller class sizes in the future. And because DOE controls enrollment, it could even grow even larger over time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. District 3 and District 17, let's try to make it a little bit quicker because these are 10:06.
Hi, thank you. This is a great presentation. I'm looking forward to maybe getting these slides to present to my district and my PTA parents. Quick question in relation to the pre-K and 3K, how you were suggesting that we could move these programs to local CBOs. My school recently opened up 3 new 3K classrooms. which took up a significant amount of classroom space, and so in one regard, it's great because it provided seats, but at the same time, it also, the majority of these families plan to go to other schools after pre-K. That seems to be the trend in our school in general. So I'm just curious, like, if you could speak a little bit more to like what moving the pre-K and 3K out of a school like that would look like. Like, I'm just curious, like, what are the benefits?
So the benefits are primarily space. So what we looked at, we did a report showing that, the expansion of pre-K and 3K was a great thing. But many, many schools that were already overcrowded and that already had very high class sizes, and especially in K through 3, were having pre-K and 3K forced within them against the will of the principal in many cases, which, increased class sizes or prevented them from offering smaller classes to these students. So we've been looking at this issue for a while, and as you may know, many CBOs are economically struggling because not only do they have thousands of empty seats, but they are reimbursed only on the basis of a per student amount rather than a per class amount, which is the way schools are funded by DOE by how many pre-K and 3K classes they're offered. So if you have an under-enrolled CBO, they can barely afford paying their teachers to keep going. And that's why we've seen many of them close or threaten to close. Also, there are problems with the timing of reimbursement, as we know. But CBOs are very valuable, and I could go on about how they've been rated higher in terms of their quality by independent analyses and assessments. They are often especially, quieter, more focused on play, which is a real advantage in terms of social development and learning. I mean, there's a lot to be said about this, but another really important point is that they're much better able to offer extended day and extended year than DOE schools. So there are many reasons why, both programmatically and policy-wise, it would be better for pre-Ks and 3Ks as much as possible, I believe, to be in neighborhood CBOs. All my kids did attend neighborhood CBOs, and they were terrific. And I'm not sure that I would want my kid 3 or 4 years old to be in an overcrowded elementary school where the playgrounds were crowded, the lunchroom is crowded, and there's really not enough time, and it's not a quiet enough environment for them to really thrive.
Yes, thank you. Veronica, can you make it quick and Lenny, please, a short answer? We already passed the time.
Sorry.
No, I love to hear you talk. Veronica, really
Yes,
quick.
I will reach out to her separately and answer the question just because for the sake of time.
Oh, I'll
Yeah,
connect
and
you too.
I'm
I'll
happy to
connect
do
you.
presentations. I just want to say, if anyone wants me to do a presentation to their president's council or even to their school, just let me know. Either me or someone else from my team would be happy to do that.
I'll definitely reach out to you, Leonie, to have to us to be in contact.
Thank you so much, Veronica.
You're welcome.
I'll send your information in a blast also so everyone can have it because I know we have meetings every single month and you're there every single month at Manhattan High Schools. Thank you, Lainey, for coming and presenting. And I'm gonna send her slides too. Thank you. Now, and apologies, our amazing NYPD right there, very patient. Thank you so much. And the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rosa. Hey, good morning, everyone. I am Sergeant Patrick Kwan. I'm a member of the NYPD, a 20-year member. Wow, time has flown. And I've spent the last decade with the Transit Bureau, which in layman's terms is the subway police. I'm joined here by my partner. Derek, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing? My name is Derek Sambolin. I'm the junior 18-year member of the NYPD. For 18 years, I've been working as, doing patrol, anti-crime. Then I went to narcotics as a detective. And then now as a sergeant, I've been in transit for the last 3.5 years and in the Bureau for the last year. Pretty much dedicated to fighting subway surfing. And I'm a graduate of the New York City public school system. My mother was a math teacher. My sister's a teacher. I have the utmost respect for educators, and I'm happy to be here and happy to present.
Yeah, and in the spirit of the holiday season, Derek decided to put on his Christmas flannel today, but pales in comparison to Rosa Diaz. You are kicking it. You are killing it. You're knocking it out of the park. Okay, so let me try and share my screen here. Let's see. I'm going to go right here. I also want to share the sound. Perfect. Optimize for video sharing? Sure, why not? Okay. All right, folks. All right, can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, we see it. We see it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay. So this presentation that you're about to see largely mimics one that has been presented in front of the school community for a little over a year now. That includes for parents, for school staff, school administrators, guidance counselors, safety directors, and most importantly, in front of our youth. So we are here representing Chief Joseph Galata, who is the NYPD Chief of Transit. And I want to thank Chief Rampersand and Director Dantzler, who have been just awesome partners in this crusade. We are two large agencies, often mired in bureaucracy, and they have been just wonderful partners in just getting this very vital information out in front of your community. And we're just so happy to share this with you. So let's kick off. Okay. So we're here talking about subway surfing. So let's just define it. What is subway surfing? Subway surfing is riding on the outside of the train car, whether it's riding on the top, as you can see in the picture on the left, riding on the side, as you can see in the picture in the middle, or riding in the rear, as you can see in the picture on the right. Judging from the photo in the center, subway surfing is not a new phenomenon. It has been around for decades. But what we have seen is a resurgence in this type of activity. And by resurgence, I mean it's exponential. Just looking at this chart, and I promise you this will be the last stat I give you for today. You can just see year over year the number of subway surfing 911 calls that we are getting in the 911 system. That number has actually surpassed where we are right now. We're about 5 months after that July 31st data run, and we are well beyond that 1,600 calls. Now, we can credit this to a number of things, right? Increased awareness leads to increased reporting, right? Because the NYPD and the school system have been very upfront about how dangerous this activity is. And I think we can all agree that, the old adage of it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think we are all members of this village, right? Everyone is trying to do their part to try and shed light on how dangerous subway surfing is. And we welcome these calls. We welcome 911 calls because it allows us to step in, to intervene, and to better measure and track this data so that folks like Derek here, my partner, can go out there and really make some meaningful apprehensions. Okay. Derek, do you want to touch upon a little bit about the social media aspect of it and what's driving this resurgence?
Yeah, so again, as Pat said, this trend has been around since the 80s, but unfortunately, now with social media, as far as TikTok, Instagram Reels, Instagram, these kids, the driving force now is posting these videos and getting these likes, and they want this content. Everyone wants to be a content creator, and everyone wants to have more and more followers. So unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. We've been in contact with Meta, in contact with Facebook, contact with Instagram, but we're really trying to get a stronghold on this issue, get these videos taken down. We constantly get these accounts suspended, but we've had multiple people that we monitor. They change their account names and phone numbers constantly. So we keep up with the technology, but some people have 12 18 different names within a year, multiple accounts. So, that's what we're keeping up on. By all means, NYPD is 100% trying to be on top of this.
Thank you, Derek. And as you can see in the picture on the left here, I mean, it's a very, and I'm not blind to the fact that it's a very appealing picture. I can understand the appeal for why kids would go on top to try and gain that type of followership, to gain that viewership. But at what cost, right? That's the Now, speaking of what's driving it, besides social media, there is a sense of perhaps trivialization of subway surfing as an act itself. And I think Derek's going to touch upon that right now with this.
Subway Surfers, the game, the app. Before I worked in this capacity, I would let my kids pass the tablet and they would play this game. This game has been around since 2012. So as we see right now with the age group, a lot of these kids that are, actively doing this act, they most likely did play this as a kid. Innately, unfortunately, parents were passing along tablets. We were passing along tablets to our nephews, cousins, daughters, sons, and they were playing this game, and they are still playing this game. We're in talks with the company SYBO Games to get a disclaimer, get a warning for parents, before the download happens. This is in the works, and it's something that we're actively trying to facilitate.
Yeah, and this is listen, I've played myself. I've actually seen at a Chuck E. Cheese facility recently as well in a much larger format. It's a fun game. And I would say the bulk of the people that play this game never take this beyond the safety of their smartphones. But there is a very small percentage of that, very small percentage of the very impressionable youth that might read this differently, that might take this differently. And so that's just something that we want to point out, the trivialization of the act of subway surfing, because in real life, there is no respawning, there is no reset. It's game over, right?
And this is a free game, and you saw in the bottom corner, it says 1B plus, 1 billion plus downloads. That's astronomical amount of people that download that game and actively play it.
Yeah. Thank you, Derek. So we hear on social media and kids, peers talking about the thrills of subway surfing, and we just really want to point out the clear consequences that they might not hear about. Now, as we've mentioned before, it's extremely dangerous. People have been seriously injured and have died. This year, I think we've had 6 fatalities. I think last year we had 5. And listen, you can fall off the moving train. You can get electrocuted by the electrified third rail. The subway system is incredibly unforgiving, and it's an incredibly unforgiving environment, and it's not a playground. And we want to stress to children that if they're seeking thrill-seeking behavior, go down to Coney Island, go down to Luna Park, go to Great Six Flags, right? Do not treat the subway system as a playground, right? Now, there's a couple of bullet points here as well. Arrest, police custody, juvenile records, right? There is potential impact on your records, in terms of, getting arrested and having to follow up with like court dates and whatnot. I want to stress that prosecution and arrest is not the aim of what we're trying to do here. We are simply trying to off-ramp kids from this very, very dangerous behavior into things that are potentially much, much, much less harmful, right? Prosecution is not the aim. Saving lives is the aim here. And as you can see in this picture, that is consequences at its worst. And that is a phone call that a detective is going to have to make. That's a notification that someone's going to have to make. And that is a face-to-face conversation between a family member and a member of our department. That's going to be incredibly mentally taxing for everyone involved, especially the next of kin. Okay, I want to show you a quick video, and I just really want to stress that it's pulled together from newsreels and whatnot. You know what? Let me just let the video speak for itself.
My past holidays were awful and sad, starting with his passing from today to his 16th birthday, to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day.
Norma Nazario is trying to piece together a nightmare. 1 year to the day her son's life was tragically cut short after he died while subway surfing on the J train.
We hear from the family of a teenager critically hurt in that subway surfing accident.
Now, the cousin of the surviving teen in all of this, well, she tells me the two boys were best friends and they met on social media, the very place where this dangerous act of subway surfing has become a trend. Well, today, one of those 14-year-olds is gone, while the family of the other is praying while he goes into surgery.
His waist is broken, and he has like a lot of bruises and stitches all over his body.
It's hard for 17-year-old Erica to believe her energetic little cousin on a stretcher. But that's what happened after authorities say 14-year-old Windinson Garcia went subway surfing. Authorities say the teens were knocked off when the train entered the tunnel. Brian didn't survive.
Kleber Garcia was just exhausted after spending hours next to his son Widinson's bedside in the hospital.
Muy triste. He feels very sad and shocked about it because he doesn't expect his son to do this.
He spoke to us through a translator and told us his 14-year-old son just graduated on Wednesday, and now
His son is awake, that he is all right, but he's got a fractured hip. When his son woke up, he told his dad about the incident, that he was on the train and his friends told him to get down, but it was too late. They were like sons to him. Even Brian was like a son to him. They were both like brothers. They knew each other since very young.
I got the text that he had passed that night, and I remember running out of my house and screaming at the top of my lungs. It was horrifying to hear that my best friend has passed away from something so stupid as this. That night will be stuck in my head forever.
This is what Kasi Laureano saw before he died last summer. The 17-year-old was subway surfing on top of the 7 train when he fell onto the tracks near Hudson Yards.
I mean, I knew he did it, but I just didn't really think about how dangerous it was and how hurt he could have gotten doing it. I just didn't really process it in that way and think that people do these things without really thinking what their actions can lead to. I mean, imagine your mom's watching you train surf, how she would feel.
I was seeking adrenaline rush, you know?
Even 10 years later, Brooklynite Isla Islam bears the scars of his decision to subway surf back in 2013. Literal scars like the ones on his head, and others like the walking stick he now uses, having lost his vision.
It's 3 a.m., pitch black, you know, freezing cold. I turn around and high impact, slap my face on a subway beam.
Issa was just 12 days shy of his 18th birthday in 2013 when he decided to subway surf along with his 2 cousins. They were on top of an F train climbing up around the Smith Street station. He turned suddenly, only to see a beam coming right at his forehead.
I was fading in and out of consciousness. My eyes are rolling back, just gasping for oxygen.
He has a very simple and clear message for anyone who would consider subway surfing, and it is the same message he would send to himself 10 years ago.
Don't subway surf. It's not worth your life. Life is precious. It only comes, once, and to take a chance and go up there, you're really, really gambling with yourself.
A life lesson best learned by not doing.
And now I want to share a second video. I apologize for the back-to-back videos here, but it's a testimonial that we received from a Miss Sharon Fraser, and I applaud her for her bravery, for sharing her story, to be willing to go on camera, to act as almost an ambassador to how subway surfing kills, and how the act of subway surfing ripples and rips through a family.
My name is Miss Sharon Fraser. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and my son's name is Javon Ramel Fraser. My son was a loving, outgoing, exploring, loved to explore, loved to travel. He's that funny, bubbly kid that would make everyone laugh even if you're having a bad day. It was really loving having him around. The day that I found out that he passed, where I was working, there were no TV to watch the news or anything, or to be following the news. So when I got the call, I was like, okay, maybe he's just hurt. I never thought he had passed.
Another teenager has died after attempting to ride on top of a moving subway car.
Police say 14-year-old Javon Frazier was found off the tracks of the 7 line in Queens, the latest victim of the trend known as subway surfing.
My warning to all kids are to don't do it. This is not a joke, period.
Apologies for those two heavy videos there, but we actually just met Miss Sharon Frazier recently, and I guess part of her grieving process is to just try and do what she can. And so she comes by our office, she grabs a handful of pamphlets, and she goes off and just carries a message, about the dangers of subway surfing, and truly very powerful testimonial that you just saw. So shifting gears here, what have we been doing as a police department to try and combat subway surfing? Like I said, it's a decades-old phenomenon, but we're seeing a resurgence in the 21st century. And so with that, we need to apply and leverage 21st century tools. And really the most impactful tool that we have discovered and started to deploy is aerial drones. So how this works is we have a team of FAA certified and department licensed drone pilots. They will send a drone up into the sky over elevated lines, and they will broadcast that stream down to officers out on platforms, in trains, and on the streets. And so that provides the officers with much more actionable information. It's allowing them to see what's occurring on a train that is approaching the station that they are posted and deployed to. And has really paid dividends. That number says 150 interventions. I think we're closing in on, well, actually, we've surpassed 200 this year. Average age 14 years old. Shockingly, Derek, I think we've had some as young as, was it
9 years old?
9 years old, which is unfathomable, I think, for a lot of parents. So, and really the last point I want to touch is that drone video shown to parent and the guardian. We take that footage, and when we are able to safely pull this kid off the train and bring him back to the precinct and go through the paperwork and whatnot, and when we hand over the child to their parents, thankfully in one piece, we show the parents the video of little Timmy or little Jose or little Johnny surfing on top of the train car. Because sometimes it's met with disbelief. Sometimes they say, no, not my Johnny, he would never. And then when we show them the footage of little Johnny surfing on top of a train in 4K high definition footage, it really hits home. It's because that's the key. It's not the prosecution, it's not the apprehension, it's the parental buy-in. It's having these conversations around the dinner table, as opposed to having the conversation at the precinct or worse, at the morgue, right? So, and that's our aim here. Oh, Derek, you want to touch upon these?
Yes. So how are these locations, how is the top of the train accessed? So the MTA trains that we have, especially running on the 7 line, where the crux, the majority of our calls are, you have access, in case of emergency, they have to have the doors be accessible. But the conductor cabs and other locations in the MTA or locked up trains, this is how they access them, train keys. Now, we want to heighten and bring awareness to the parents and to teachers. Basically, these are the train keys that they should be aware of. If they see them, they should confiscate them and turn them into the local precinct, or give them to the MTA. But for better tracking, best case scenario is giving it to a local precinct or a PSA or trans district.
Right.
So the center key is an actual MTA key. It's called the R9 key. That accesses doors. The key to the right is also, you see New York City Transit Vapor key on the right. That's also an actual MTA key. These keys sometimes get stolen from the conductor cabs or kids if you see the key, the gold key on the left, they're actually making homemade keys. They can purchase keys, blank, skeleton keys. They're called skellies. That's what they call them from the kids call them on Instagram. But basically these keys can be manufactured just by cutting it a certain type of way, and now they can access the doors. Once they access the doors, that's how they end up climbing up on top of the train. These keys, if you see them, it's completely illegal to possess. We're in the process of working with the MTA to update the conductor cab safety keys and the master control keys. So if you see them, by all means, confiscate them.
Yeah, and they're very distinctive looking just by looking at it, right? They look like they belong on like a dungeon master's like key set. So these are not your typical house keys. And so it would prompt questioning and confrontation if I saw it as an adult and I saw kids having keys that look like this. So great point. Thanks, Derek. And so when it comes to kind of like an overlap of communities that we're seeing, the subway surfing community almost like intersects with this other community that we call urbexers or urban exploring. Derek has a lot of like firsthand knowledge about this community. You want to touch upon that?
Yeah, so again, with the social media monitoring that we do and the actual physical monitoring of what goes on, we go down on the tunnels with the MTA and we go to all these locations. Basically, we have a lot of trains. The MTA has a huge amount of real estate to cover. Tons of tunnels, tons of trains, tons of subway stations and abandoned subway stations. So it piques the curiosity of these kids. Usually they start off kind of as like a hierarchy system in the community. Basically, they'll start riding on the back of the trains, then they'll graduate to riding on the tops of trains, and then unfortunately, then they'll end up going to the tunnels and trying to find the trains that are laid up just for storage. And they'll go to these locations, they'll climb on live tracks with live third rails, and they'll go and access these trains with the keys that they either manufactured or stole. And they'll go to these trains and they'll learn about them. They'll try to turn them on, they'll try to move them. They'll try to utilize the keys and steal the locks to then test the keys that they have manufactured. They'll take photos of this and again, they'll post it on Instagram, social media. They'll post it on Discord and other social media outlets to get likes, get more followers, and get clout. The photo on the right, as you can see, is, after they graduated from urban exploring, they end up going, now they explore tops of rooftops as part of urbexing. They'll also, same thing for social media. Again, a very appealing sort of photo, as in, scary and beautiful at the same time. They'll post these things and they'll climb on top of cranes, tops of buildings. And these kids are usually a little bit of an older crowd, as you can see. They'll start off young, backs of trains, 10, 12, 13, 14. Then 16, they're in tunnels. And then 17, 18, 19, they'll usually be on top of rooftops. Now they're considered adults. And unfortunately, you break a door to get to the top of a roof. Now it's a burglary charge, which is a felony. So this is what we're trying to ultimately, discourage.
Yeah, so the common denominator here is unlawful behavior in places where they have no place being, right? That is the common denominator here. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the presentation here. I just want to point out this particular pamphlet. I have it kind of splayed out like in digital form. This is a pamphlet that we hand out to parents when they come take custody of their children who have been apprehended for subway surfing. It has information about how to spot certain activity. It has information about off-ramps and other programs that could be healthier alternatives. This pamphlet exists in its digital form as well in a number of languages. We'd be happy to share that. We can get that over to Chief Rampersant and to Director Chancellor for dissemination. Because we know, like, especially at the handoff process, Derek's been a part of that as well. It's a sea of emotions when a parent is called down to a precinct to get their child who was caught subway surfing. It's a lot of information to process. We simply arm them with this pamphlet and we say, folks, just take this and digest this at your own pace when you have a moment, right? And that's all that is. And this is actually the same pamphlet that Miss Sharon Fraser, the mother that you saw in the video, comes down, grabs a handful every now and then, and she'll go off to hit up church groups and community groups. And it's very good information. There's a QR code there as well, if you want to quickly scan the screen there. Okay, so I mean, a little call to action. This is the last slide here. What can you do as a parent, as a school administrator, as as a stakeholder in the school community? Have that hard conversation. Ask them about if they know about subway surfing. Acknowledge the existence of it. We don't have to be blind to the fact that we don't have to close our eyes to it and pretend that it doesn't exist. It does exist. They probably know friends who have done it. So have that conversation. Like Derek said, look for items that are used by subway surfers, like those keys and whatnot, right? Off ramps, find out what they're doing after school. Because we have noticed that the majority of our surfers are lightly supervised after school. And we understand that New York parents are sometimes working one, if not two jobs. And so in that hour between school dismissal and dinner time, children need something to occupy their time, whether it's homework, whether it's an after-school program. The top of a train car is definitely not a good option. And like I mentioned earlier, 21st century requires 21st century solutions. Tracking apps, being aware of what your children are doing online, being aware of what photos they have on their photo gallery. If you see a photo taken from the top of a crane in Manhattan, that's going to prompt a question from me. So I'm going to leave that at that. I know we're a little bit pressed for time, so out of respect for everyone's time, we're going to end it here. And I will leave it up to Miss Diaz, Chief Rampersant, or Director Chancellor to let Miss know if we have time at all for questions.
So, wow, this was a lot. I was trying to hold back my tears and my horror, and I think this presentation should be in every single school. We do not have time for questions. However, please write them down in the chat. I also want to be mindful of Mr. Mark's time. So please write your questions in the chat, and I am I am in shock still for everything that you guys have presented. I am a very worried mom, and I have trackers on all my three kids. Life 360, by the way, you can download it. It's free. I have my kids' password and everything, and I check their phones daily, even at night. They know that I check their phones too, and I have their passwords. I mean, I'm extremely too involved. I don't care. Um, I will do whatever I need to do to keep my kids safe.
Gotcha.
Thank you guys so much, and my heart is still aching.
Gotcha. So,
Thank you
Ms.
for
Diaz, I
joining
want to
us.
address a number of the questions here, and I think this is one that I think perhaps a lot of people have in their minds. If there is a need for this presentation at your school, at your facility, just kindly reach out to Director Dantzler. He has kind of been the clearinghouse for all presentation requests, and we will put on a schedule and we'll get out to you. Okay?
Also put his email in the chat that I can blast it out to everyone so everyone has the same information. Thank you so much, and thank you to Randy, because this was her idea. And I'm like, yes, like we work together, and this is because of the work that we do together. But let me stop just rambling. Thank you. Thank you so much, and hopefully you guys can visit every single of our schools. And
emails in the chat just for everyone's.
thank you so much. And Mr. Mark, the floor is yours. I apologize.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you again to our partners at NYPD. It's good to be in community with you all. My name is Dr. Robin Daveson. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Safety and Youth Development around Culture and Climate, and of course, you all know Chief Mark Rampersant. So we are going to dive into a presentation on New York City citywide behavior expectations, otherwise known as the Discipline Code. I know my colleagues visited you all last month and presented suspensions for specifically students with disabilities. And we cater this presentation around a lot of the questions that were sent to us. So we'll dive in there just so that it's not a repetitive nature, and we'll dive in. So our objectives based on the information that was shared to us as a team is to review the citywide behavior expectations, to support student learning, which is also known as a discipline code, to consider the progression of possible student disciplinary responses as listed in the discipline code, and to talk to you all about documentation, record keeping, timelines, and guidelines for student discipline. Okay. All right, so this is our value statement for the citywide behaviors expectation in New York City Public Schools, and I wanted to share this with you all, so you all know what we value when it comes to student discipline. In New York City Public Schools, we value diversity and recognize that each student is unique. The safety and well-being of our students and staff remain our top priority. Our public schools discipline code reflects our belief in disciplining students in ways that are appropriate while providing opportunities to educate and remediate behavior in ways that help our students grow. We strive to provide a supportive and nurturing environment that encourages the ongoing development of positive behavior, while also addressing any issues or concerns with empathy and understanding. By approaching discipline in a dynamic and holistic manner, we aim to help every student reach their full potential and thrive in both their academic and personal lives. So the D code, citywide behavior expectations, also known as the D code. This is available to all families, to all staff on New York City public website. And inside of the discipline code, it's governed by Chancellor's Regulation 8443. You will find many of these entities listed here, such as the Students' Bill of Rights and Responsibilities, which let all of our students know their rights and responsibilities as students. There's a range of disciplinary consequences in the D code, as well as a plethora of guidance, interventions, and supports. These interventions and supports in the discipline code can be used alone or in conjunction with disciplinary responses. Okay. So additionally, the D code, we want to ensure that disciplinary consequences and behavior interventions are consistent and it's done in an equitable manner for all students. The D code sets the tone to ensure that schools are safe and that teaching and learning again remains paramount and a priority. Okay. And additionally, it gives us the opportunity to address student issues by supporting them with various interventions. And we'll talk a little bit more about those interventions as we dive deeper into the deck. Okay. So culture and climate have a profound impact on students' academic progress as well as their relationships with peers and adults. And that is where that is paramount for every school, to promote positive student behavior by developing relationships in school communities. That is, that is where progress and relationship lives in schools with adults and peers. And each school is expected to promote positive school culture in their school communities and ensure that they have structures and systems in which support this environment and to support students to grow academically, support students in various ways. And also, it is also each one of our students' civic responsibility to ensure that they also adhere to the behavior expectations that schools set. Additionally, social emotional learning happens across all of our school communities and is a basic component of every school community that we want schools and that we certainly encourage schools to exercise day to day as a universal prevention of behaviors in each and every school. If parents want to discuss different supports and interventions that currently happens in their school community, you can always reach out to your principals, the APs, parent coordinators, and even on the district level to ensure that just to find out more about which particular programs that schools have aligned to social emotional learning in their school communities. And of course, the impact of effective social emotional learning in schools builds lifelong skills. It also is the paramount of relationship building with students with each other and students and their teachers. Students also are able to manage their own emotions. They're able to make strong decisions. They have a developing care for their peers, for each other, for families. It lives inside of the school and outside of the school. And more importantly, they're also able to establish positive behaviors in school communities, which we all know once you establish those positive relationships, that's where you have a decrease or reduction in behavior incidents that happen within schools. So our discipline code is used in a progressive way. And here on this particular slide, I want you all to understand the progressive nature in which it must be used. And understanding discipline is a teachable moment, and that's key. We don't want to use discipline as a gotcha, right? But instead, we want to use it as an opportunity to teach students to get it right the next time if a disciplinary action has been issued. And we certainly recognize that no two students are the same. Therefore, every situation and every behavior is handled on a case by cases in each and every school. And so sometimes when discipline actions are decided on school levels, it lives on one step of the ladder, right? Where principals can decide to call parents to meet with students to provide interventions such as guidance counselor support, social worker support, right? And they can have conflict mediation circles with students and staff to address whatever issues or concerns that happens. Other times we go slowly up the ladder and use other disciplinary interventions and other disciplinary, well, to use interventions and other actions. And at times we need to run all the way up the ladder in cases where the incidents are just that severe. Okay. So applying a discipline code, there was questions in which how are these decisions decided? And so when applying the discipline code, the safety and well-being of all of our students are paramount. And according to the Chancellor's regulations, these are the factors that must be considered when applying the discipline code, meaning when schools decide on the disciplinary action that they are going to give to students. So they are age, maturity, if there's any previous or repetitive disciplinary actions that happen, the nature of the misconduct, the number of incidents that has occurred. And again, what we do measure this on a case-by-case basis. And we also encourage schools, as I said, to ensure that they're using it in a progressive way where they decide on the least action before they go all the way up to the most severe action of taking discipline. Okay, and there are other factors in which contribute to that. I'm certainly, I can share more, but I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that. And here, these are some disciplinary responses in terms of guidance, interventions, and supports. Like this is where we want the work to live, right? We want schools to have conflict resolution. We want schools to exercise restorative practices, which is available across all 5 boroughs in New York City Public Schools. We want them to develop these individual behavior contracts with students so that when students make a bad decision, that they know how to change their actions for next time if they're ever faced in the same situation. Right, we have individualized support plans, which are developed in conjunction with the students to, again, set goals with students and to make sure that whatever action, if they had taken one prior, is not taken again. We have mentoring programs. We have counseling and supports, mediation, and schools also have a plethora of community-based organizations that they partner with, and then they have other supports that live within their school communities besides these supports to address any incidents that happen in school communities. And this slide, one of the questions I was asked is when is the discipline code used, right? And where does it apply? So it applies in school, on school property, before school, after school hours. It applies when traveling on vehicles by New York City that's funded by New York City Public Schools. In a discipline code, it discusses that there's a nexus, meaning a connection to the school when an incident happens off of school property, and when the incident can show a negative effect in the school community or endanger the health and safety of the school community. And so this is where the discipline code applies and how a student can possibly be disciplined if an incident happened in these particular areas. All right. So disciplinary responses. So we spoke about interventions that the discipline code highlights, and these are the disciplinary responses that the discipline code highlights. And they are, well, we'll start with a teacher removal. All right. So principals have the autonomy on what to choose the disciplinary response that they select within range provided by the discipline code. There are guidelines in which schools have to follow to select the range of discipline. So a teacher removal is teacher generated and principal approved. Every school have their own system of how they decided on a teacher removal and how it gets approved, okay? For kindergarten to second grade, students can be removed up to 1 day per request. And again, that is after multiple interventions have been put into place. Okay. Grades 3 to 12, students can be removed up to 1 to 4 days, partial days. High school is a little different where they can be moved from classes, but only one period at a time. And again, the discipline codes get very granular in determining this. It gives you the range in which principals can select the disciplinary action. And again, following the guidelines of the discipline code. Okay. Then we have the suspension. So there are two types of suspensions, a principal suspension and a superintendent suspension. And the bullets here share some guidelines of which this can apply. A principal suspension can be imposed 1 to 5 days. A superintendent suspension can be imposed for a period of 5 school days. And depending on different infractions, it could range from 5 school days up to a year, depending on the severity and the level of the infraction. And again, the discipline code highlights when those incidents and those disciplinary consequences can be rendered within the range. And many of the superintendent suspensions are approved at a different level. Go to the next slide. My colleagues last week shared a bit about this, students with IEPs and 504. Even if a student is deemed to know, meaning if a student is in the midst of an evaluation and require additional supports for special education, will require additional due process protections. And so these protections are the entitlement of an MDR, which the school team meets and decides if the incident that occurred is a manifestation of the student's disability. And that is whenever a student has been or will be removed from his class, current educational process more than 10 days may result in a disciplinary change of placement. That's when the MDR process must occur. And if a student has mandated busing on their IEP, they will remain at the home school while the disciplinary process is occurring until they receive busing. Okay. Okay. At the middle and high school levels, students serving the superintendent suspension based on the severity of it may be assigned to an alternative learning center, which is also known as an ALC. At the ALC, they receive daily academic instruction accompanied by their supports if students have an IEP or if they need additional supports at the ALC. The home school and the ALC is in collaboration to make sure that those academic supports and instruction is happening for each and every student. So here the students receive uninterrupted instruction. If they transfer from their home school and they have to attend an ALC, uninterrupted instruction is happening. Okay, students with the IEPs must be provided with their appropriate special education services while they're at ALC to ensure that their progress is still aligning to their IEP goals. The goal here is to make sure that students return home. Like that's the goal. The goal is not to have students at ALCs longer than they're supposed to be there, or at all for that matter, right? But while at the ALC, they work with the school community to end the ALC to make sure that students, again, create goals, have changed their behavior, have strategies in which they can take with them back to school to ensure that the likelihood of them being there is more unlikely. And one of the questions I know that came up was around the ALC locations. So I wanted to share with you all where all of the alternative learning centers are located. They are in all 5 boroughs, and there are multiple sites for the ALCs that serves high schools and middle school students. And depending on different variables, if a parent is not happy with the ALC site, they contact the borough suspension director and or the home school, and those sites can be changed to accommodate families and to accommodate any travel hardships. Okay. And another question that came up was family notification. So if there are any, if there's a disciplinary response being issued by the school has 24 hours or even prior to that immediately to notify parents. Parents should be notified of the disciplinary action. Parents should be called. They should have a notice home if they can't be reached. They can be reached by email, but it is the school's responsibility to make sure that if they receive a disciplinary response, that families are notified. There are no cases should a child come home and say, "Oh, I'm suspended," and there's no notification. That is the school's responsibility. Okay, for both principals, for both removals, principal suspensions, and superintendent suspensions. Okay, there is a SOHO generated letter that has all the pre-slug information for families that gives all of the information. And additionally, before it go home, parents should be called, right? Because there have to be a conference set up with the families to let families know what happened, what was the incident, the severity of the incident, the decision that's being made. And families can ask, well, you know, why this disciplinary action? Can we do something else? The only law that allows us that we must suspend is when there is a gun possession, right? And so that we can't go around. But whenever there's an incident that happened in school communities and parents can meet with school communities to decide on the best action in collaboration with the school, okay? It is the school's yearly responsibility to make sure that they share the discipline code with all of the teachers. They go distribute, there's a parent letter that goes out in September that shares with families where the discipline code is located and that they can access it. We also conduct workshops for families, and actually we'll launch in a full series in January that I'll be sure to make sure everyone has the information about. We want to keep you in full loop with everything that's happening aligned to the discipline code. And the supports that we're giving students holistically across New York City Public Schools. And in October, schools they must conduct workshops for students on their Bill of Rights, their roles and responsibilities, and discipline code. And they also have to conduct parent workshops as well on the discipline code, Bill of Rights, etc. Okay. If anyone has any deep dive questions about any disciplinary decisions, first you go to the school because the school is the one that makes these decisions and you speak to the principals, right? If that doesn't work, you have your district team and your district superintendent, the FLC, the FCL, who's also assigned directly to families to offer support. In addition, you have me. I am the executive director of culture and climate, and my portfolio oversees suspensions and hearings. And I have a team in every borough that's here on this slide, in every borough that can speak to you specifically about anything in the discipline code. If you have any questions or concerns, okay? And that concludes the presentation. And I'm here for, certainly I know that the chat was going. I wasn't able to look at it as I was presenting. So
it was blasting. The chat was blasting with a lot of information because like we need to know, like, like I've had a couple of, here and there information, but I don't know everything. And that's why we're here in this platform to learn so we can take it to our constituents and then they'll be more knowledgeable on how to support their own parents.
Absolutely. And I also want to share that I worked in partnership with Parent University. And we created a video, and the video takes families through the decode A to Z bite-sized action steps. And I'm going to share that with you all. And it also answers questions even more deeply. It's a short 8-minute video, but it kind of sums up the decode in a nutshell as well. And I'm going to put that in the chat so everyone can have access to that. If you sign up for Parent University, that video is available in all languages. and it goes over the discipline code as well.
Ms. Diaz, as best we can we encourage parents to go to the link? It's an 8-minute video, and it is really, really in depth. And while Dr. Davidson took you through the process, she really gave you sort of the generic overview, the things that you need to know based on your questions. But we would greatly appreciate it if you would share that link that she's going to provide for parents, with as many parents as you possibly can, so that you can get a greater understanding. We want parents to be knowledgeable about the suspension process. We also want parents to be knowledgeable about what their rights are and their children's rights. We get a lot of parents who plead no contest. Basically, you are forfeiting your right to have the disciplinary process take its natural course, and that is for you to face the accuser. It is super, super important that you are educated before going into any conversation around the disciplinary sanction being administered to your child. So please, please share it with as many people as you can.
And thank you so much for that, Chief. And Ms. Diaz, one of the questions was, can we work in partnership to help revise the discipline code? I welcome you all to sit at the round table with us all and coming up with, ways in which we can revise the discipline code to make it best to meet the needs of our students and families.
Randy already raised her hand.
Yeah, Randy's been stalking me for a while on this one, so she'll be first.
All right.
She'll be first at the table.
Let's do it. Thank you.
I do have a quick question. What happens when there's two parents? You understand? When it's like shared custody. That's my only question.
So it's super important that you understand that when there is a shared custody, there's shared custody, and it's clarified for the school around which parent has overall custody and care of the education of the student. So when we get these court orders, they specify which parent is responsible for education, parent responsible for health decisions, so forth. The school, we are following the school, right? We don't get involved in who should and who does what. We follow the school's information around which parent is present for the hearing, right? We don't have anything to do with that. Our process is really about due process, and we are supporting the parent who represents the student's well-being in terms of their education.
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Chair Rosa, I just wanted to let you know that Chancellor's here.
Great. Thank you so much. I know we're so late, but
Thank you.
Yes, take it away, Melissa. Yay.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here with all of you. And I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I very much enjoyed visiting a couple of our schools, including Kingsborough. And I want to thank Randy for inviting me, and also to her and all of D21 for welcoming me back very soon after for a great CEC meeting. It was also great to see the kids perform. So just always a great time when we head over to Brooklyn. And so just wanted to remind everyone of a couple of things. CEC elections are happening and super important. We know that this is just critically important to all of us, right? Especially in this group where we're talking about leadership, parent leadership. So please make sure that we are sharing with families and communities the importance of this. We know that the application period begins in January of 2025. So we want to make sure that we're sharing that good news, and we're encouraging great partners to apply. Our CECs are so important. And I know that you've had a very busy morning talking about safety, class size. You've had some really great presentations. And I know I got the tail ends of the discipline code one, which is so important. We really need to have you all at the table when we're making revisions, but also deep understanding of the discipline code. And these are the kinds of conversations that we also want to have with our CEC leaders. Again, I'm just going to keep putting that plug in, but these are the important things that we really want to do with our parent leaders. So I don't want to give lengthy remarks because I want to just turn it over to all of you, but it's always a great time to be with CPAC.
That was so fast. We have a lot of time now. So, Dr. Christina, you want to take it away? or maybe yeah, we have like 4 minutes. I don't know what to
Chair,
do.
I don't know. No, I
No, I
normally
thought we were asking
asking
questions.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I don't
Okay,
know
we can ask
if
Yes.
you're
questions
honoring
then.
that same process, but that's usually why the chancellor speaks less so that you can talk more.
Okay, awesome. Any questions for the chancellor? Please raise your hand. Whoever hasn't spoken, by the way, just in case. Wow, no questions. You cover everything.
I also want to thank you guys for always showing up to our listening sessions or sending representatives. These listening sessions they're so impactful for the team and me. We're just walking away with so much extra information, really thinking about the things that we can improve. Even if something already exists, how can we improve it? And communication. There's so many things that people are lifting at the listening sessions that we're like, oh, but we do some of that already. And it just signals to us that we also need to be better at communicating certain things. So important, so helpful. We have one more left for this cycle, but of course, this is just, step one in our regular engagement process. So we'll be doing another round of visits. I see we have some questions. I know some were sent in. Adriana mentioned them, and then we have another one here.
So I know we sent in a couple of questions, and most of them were about the discipline code and PAPTA roles and stuff like that. Let me just triple check. Thank you for the executive board to keep me on check. Okay, we have questions. Let me see. I think this
Chair, I
is
just put
mostly
them
for
in the chat.
Anthony. Yeah, some of these are for like Anthony's hot topic, which we're gonna discuss soon. Anyone live here? Any members that wants to ask a question? Oh, beautiful. Awesome. There we go. Do you want me to read them, Chancellor? I'm sorry.
Yes, because I'm going through the chat and I see a couple questions, so I don't know which are mine and which have already been asked.
They're all ours, in all fairness to you, Chair.
So
They're all questions that that the speakers have answered already, or we will be answering with the exception of appeal schools. Yes, Adriana, thank you. So can you speak on appeal schools and the data across our city on which schools are appeal schools and how can we support them, or how can we change this policy?
Sure, and I think we also have First Deputy Chancellor, perhaps someone from his team as well to speak to that.
And just to make sure I understand the question, because I'm scrolling through the chat as well. This is about budget appeals?
No, appeal schools, actually, we cannot find it on the DOE website, the list of appeal schools within each district, and how can we support them as a PTA or as a district? Because we have at least 15 appeal schools in my District 26. I want to know where it is, or we can find this further information as a parent leader, and how can we support them?
But is
Like
it
what-
appeal? Sorry, I'm so sorry, Ms. Aviles. Is it appeal for enrollment? Is it appeal for budget?
They're actually called, from what I understand, they're actually called appeal schools that have to put in for actually increase in their budgets, but it's actually
Okay, budget
certain
appeals.
budget appeal schools. Yes, and I can't find anything in the DOE website about it.
Right,
It's very vague, and no one can direct me anywhere. So if someone can just speak on that, because we're really struggling in District 26 with 15 schools. So I really want more information for our parent leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's not really First Deputy Chancellor. Actually, Chief Duran, are you on the call? I think you might be the best person to respond to this.
Thank you, Chancellor. Yes, I'm on the call. Thank you, everybody, for the time today. So appeal schools are schools that receive free student funding and receive dollars for their mandated services. We do not publicize the list of schools by district that are considered appeal schools. We provide fair student funding to provide general education, mandated special ed, ELS, and compliance services. So if you have an appeal It generally means the Fair Student Formula did not cover those items. We have a review process with our field teams. The field teams do a review. We go against a rubric, compare schools by district and across the city, and then we submit for funding for those areas. The list of appeals, I don't know if we would publish them. We would have to revisit that piece. For you as a group to organize, what I would say is to support the principal, work with the principal, look at the CEP, look at the school needs, what the community needs are, work with the principal to see how you as an organization could sometimes fundraise or bring other vendors or organizations to support schools. And then have your principals work with the field teams and escalate whatever needs they have. And then my team will review those needs and we can see how we can fulfill them.
Thank you. I was just looking for the actual threshold that makes an appeal school where we can find that information, because I really, all parents and families are asking about that. So I really would like to see somewhere where I can share that information. It can't just be by words, right? So there has to be something somewhere that as a parent leader, we could share during our PTA leaders, put it on paper. And how can we, like you just said, how can we support our schools?
So an appeal school historically is an appeal school each year as a new appeal school. And we say that because we review every single school every single year due to enrollment, physical changes, community changes, grade band changes, mergers. Schools can come in and out of appeal. We also have infused millions of dollars back into schools in various ways. So some schools are appeals from one year to the next. Some schools are constant appealers for 5 years due to, let's say, physical size. And I'll give you an example. We have a parochial school where the physical size for classrooms are smaller than our our community schools. And as a result, we do not have the proper number of teacher-student ratio. So we have to fund the breakages of the teachers. So that would be a constant appealer. So to give you a list that says that this is an appeal school, it may be tough because every school has to be reviewed each year. I would just say principals should work with the parents in the school community, starting with the CEP, looking at the needs of the school, and then working with the budget director against the FSF allocation. Of course, funding the mandates first for general education. Special education students are English language learners, and then look at like per diem coverage, after school programs, and all those additional non-mandated services that are enriching and are necessary for our students.
Yeah, just to build on that, and Sarita, feel free to jump in. I hear what you're saying. And Sarita would probably know whether there is anything specifically in writing on policy. This is not a this is basic exceptions. This is something that happens if you are out of compliance. Ricardo says, for example, with your special education mandates through your initial budget allocation. So it's really a compliance issue, or you're otherwise out of compliance with laws. This is a mechanism to allow you then to go to the budget office and say, we need more funding or we're going to be out of compliance. There may be some written guidelines. We hear you. It makes total sense that you would want to direct your schools and your parent leaders to written guidance. So we should get that to you. But it really is not that you are an appeals school. You're designated. As Ricardo says, if you get your budget allocation and you're going to be out of compliance, there is a mechanism for you to request additional funding. And that could and probably should change year to year. But Sarita, I don't know if you want that.
Yeah, I can just chime in and say, based on going back to exactly what Chief Duran said, because it can change year to year for different schools. They do jump in and out. There's different criteria that places them as an appeal school versus not. There's a very in-depth process. So even if a school has a specific need and they may actually have a request, they work really closely with their budget teams to identify how they can actually cover those gaps. Sometimes that request can be decreased, before it gets up to the central staff, or it could easily be taken care of. I think what we can do is, because it changes based on a different set of criteria, we can probably call out what that different criteria is, but it's not like one formula that says you check these three boxes and you become an appeal school, because things can change within those different schools. So we can most certainly get back to you on sort of what the list of different reasons and criteria is that a school can fall into becoming an appeal school at any given time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Chair, do you want me to facilitate the rest of the questions? Okay. Veronica, District 17, I know you've had your hands up.
Good morning and happy holidays to everyone. I saw this morning on the news where there is a school that I think it's in the Bronx, for kids with dyslexic. And from what I'm seeing, they're doing great things. And I know that in every district has a lot of those kids, and there's not the service there for them. I was wondering if this is something Central is thinking about. As a parent, I would love to see we have a school in every district to serve those kids. So I just wanted to ask if this is something that Central is thinking about that would really help our kids. As you know, as your statistics say, that most time those are the kids that we lost them to the system. So that was my question to you guys.
Sorry, for some reason I broke up on a little bit on the side here. Can you just repeat the first half of the question, please?
I was saying that I saw this morning there's a school in the Bronx who is providing service for kids that is dyslexic. And I say that as a parent, most times we lose those kids to the system. Is there a conversation at Central to provide that service in every district, like a school? I would love to see a school in every district to provide a service for those kids so we don't lose them to the system.
So before I turn it over to the First Deputy Chancellor to talk about that school in particular and the future of similar schools, I just want to remind that through our universal screening, any student who we believe, based on that initial screener, might have dyslexia, we then give them a dyslexia screener. And part of the work that we're doing with New York City Reads and of course with DC Fody in Dial is to support students with any print-based disability. So while those schools are amazing and we're super happy to have one in District 7 in the Bronx, I just want to point out that the support is there regardless of where the students go to school, right? And that's important, because not every student who has dyslexia will want to or can be in one of those schools. Let's say there were plans, which I am not saying that there were plans to have one in every single borough. There will be children who have dyslexia who don't attend that particular school in District 7, right? Let's use the Bronx as an example. So what we need to do is make sure that regardless of which school a child is in when they have dyslexia, they are being supported in every single way. But I'm going to pass it over to First Deputy Chancellor.
Thank you very much, Chancellor, and very glad, Ms. Clark, that you're raising that point. And Dr. Rux may want to weigh in as well. I know she's on, but we're excited about it. South Bronx Literacy Academy, as the Chancellor says, in District 7, in their second year. This is a new program, as you say. It's designed specifically for students with dyslexia and other print-based disabilities, and it has a very intensive and structured model that has proven to be successful in making sure that those students become strong readers. So it's early yet, but the main actors in figuring out where new schools and new programming is going to be cited are your district superintendents. And in this case, maybe Ms. Clark, this is why you're raising it. Superintendent Lindsay, I know, is in District 17 is considering opening a literacy academy, the same basic model, probably some variation, in District 17. So this is a live conversation. Glad that you think it would meet the needs of students in District 17. And I think the best place to go for that conversation is to Shanine Lindsay.
Thank you. The next question that was on in the chat is how do we get principals to share data and budget information as per Chancellor's regs with the PTA? For some schools, there's a lot of if they don't ask, don't share environment, and so they wonder if there are tips, thoughts, ideas from here about principals sharing that.
Yeah, I will make sure that I am very clear with superintendents and principals that this is necessary. They must comply with the regulation. This is not an option. If there are specific cases, I know that the question is being asked broadly, but if there are specific cases, please make sure that you connect with Dr. Melendez so that way we're aware of those places, because she and I will then both have conversations with our chiefs of school support who are always on this call, and they will make sure that they have those targeted conversations with the superintendents and principals. That's not okay. It's a regulation. It has to be addressed. And I see Rima chiming in. Even if they do ask, sometimes they redact or only share the OTPS. It's a pervasive issue. I understand that. So I need to know which ones, which schools. Like, I know we're talking very high level, and we don't have to get into that now, but we're accessible. I mean, a number of you text me directly, and I welcome that. You text and call Dr. Melendez all the time. So give us the specifics. We're not shouting you out. We're not saying where we got it from. This is not good practice. This is a mandate. This is what they have to do. This is what they have to comply with. So please have a conversation with us. We will make sure that we have those conversations in a tactful way. Nobody's name will be mentioned, but it is not okay. And the only way we're going to be able to address it is if we know where are the specific pain points.
Yeah, Chancellor, and then I think we have just a couple more questions that are very similar in nature. How do we support parents who are victims of retaliation from principals for their advocacy? That's the global question, and then I can give an update on A655.
Yeah, I don't mean to reiterate the same answer, but it comes down to the same answer. It comes down to my expectation and my messaging very broadly, but then it also has to be a targeted conversation with those who are not complying, with those who are retaliating, with those who are giving the parents a hard time. I can only intervene. Dr. Melendez can only intervene as well if we know the specifics. And again, I do not want to put anybody on the spot here. This isn't the time or the place, but we are always accessible. It's something that we pride ourselves on. So please take advantage and give us the specific information. No one has to know who it is who's telling us. And again, we will always deal with things in a very, very tactful way. Oh, and I see that. Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
And then Caroline, your last question for the Chancellor and her team.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Melendez and Chancellor Ramos. Nice to see you. And thank you guys for holding space for all of us parent leaders in the space. My question is really about safety agents and the shortage of them. If there has been any updates as to what that looks like in the next school year. Simply because obviously, we have many schools that are running off of literally just one agent. It's very, very challenging. And us as PTA leaders, sometimes we actually step in and help them by standing with them while they're like helping engage the students moving in and out of the dismissal periods, or even during the beginning of the school day. And, it just shows that they're really dedicated in that way, but they're willing to work with us. But we're really just wondering at this point, especially in my district, what does that look like? Are there implementations for hiring more and getting more officers into our school spaces? Thank you.
Yeah, and we actually, even though we're still down pre-pandemic, we're actually up in our numbers and working constantly with NYPD. So I'm going to ask Chief Rampersad if you're still on the call to talk specifically.
Yep. Thank you very much, and great question. I'm glad to hear that our other stakeholders are chipping in, right? Because it takes a village to keep young people safe. And we're glad to hear that the village has stepped in to help us ensure the safety of young people. So we're in constant communication with our partners in the NYPD, discussing the ways by which we're keeping schools safe. And they're using different methods outside of the increased number of agents. The agents who are considered non-school agents are pushing into our schools to conduct vertical patrols. They're conducting meetings with principals just to see if, in fact, there's an increase in concern. What you may not see, but it exists on a daily basis, is the agents are communicating with their respective borough commands. And if there is a need for, whether it's for the day, for the week, to have additional coverage, that coverage is being deployed to those schools. So outside of the regular agent that is assigned to the school, there is something called YRT, which is a youth response team, there you go, that you've seen, that's providing high visibility, especially on our safe passage routes to and from schools. These folks are available for any school that may be seeing a uptick in incidents or areas of concerns, even threats. But we are working aggressively with our partners in school safety to get those numbers up. They just had a graduating class of 120 agents that have just recently been deployed. They graduated in November, the end of November, have recently been deployed to schools. They are just waiting approval for the next class to go in, and we will keep you apprised of what that approval date is when it comes to fruition.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And go YRT. We love them very, very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all for the Chancellor and her team. And I think the last question is for me and A655. We are
Wait
in
one
the process.
second.
Oh,
Dr. Christina,
yeah.
I apologize for stopping you. I don't like to do
No,
that.
no,
I
this is your
apologize.
meeting.
No, but I don't like to stop anyone when they're speaking. But I do have two questions. One of them because it's very like people need to know, especially us as parent leaders. Sometimes principals try to tell us what to do, right? We're autonomous, we're independent. And there is a question in the chat from Rima. It says, "What is the parent engagement process within the discipline code?" And also one from Leon Laney Hampson, which I'm going to acknowledge, about the working group on the oh yes, on the student privacy. When will the working group start? Any idea? And those two, yeah, those two.
I think Erica also had a question, so I'll address that after about teacher shortage. In terms of the working group, I think we were supposed to start in the new year, but I think we have Deputy Chancellor Vadera on the call or someone from DIIT.
It's actually legal and Dan.
Ah,
I'm sorry, I'm having tech difficulties, Chancellor. I'm sorry. The working group was on which issue?
sorry, the data privacy, because I know that Dennis is returning in January, so I think we were going to start in January.
Correct.
My concern
That's correct.
on that.
I apologize. Yes. So certainly any parent leader who's interested, please just let Dr. Melendez and her team know, and we will reach out. But yes, do not fear that working group hasn't been finally formed as yet.
And Ms. Diaz, I think the other question was about discipline. So please share that link that we provided to you for our parents so that they can have a greater understanding about the discipline process. And if there are any specific questions, you do have the number and information for Dr. Davidson, who is more than happy to have parents do these presentations and more willing to have parents to come out and be thought partners as we think about any changes in the discipline code process.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll share the information with everyone too. And Dr. Oh, look at me. Dr. Melendez, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Chancellor.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. I know there are a couple of additional questions and we're running short on time. But just high level, Erica, I see your question about special education. So we know that teacher shortage impacts different districts in different ways, right? And so It's something that we're constantly working on with our chief talent officer. I know that DSL also partners with them. So absolutely, we know that we need more special education teachers in certain districts. And of course, Dial works very closely with Division of School Leadership to also make sure that we're keeping schools in compliance and we're supporting them where compliance is an issue due to teacher shortage. So I'm running out of time, so I don't want to go into the weeds on this, but happy to make that a larger topic in our follow-up meeting, or Dr. Melendez, if we want to regroup with CPAC even off schedule to talk a little bit about some of these issues. I'm happy to schedule time.
Excellent.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great holiday. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
And as the team leaves, I just wanted to share a little update on A655. So as you know, updating a regulation is not a overnight task. I am so grateful to many members of this team of CPAC, Randy and Shirley, who is no longer here, for working and supporting us in doing the updates to the regulation. This regulation update that we did engage in also includes Title I, which is, as many of you know, not an office that, not a parent group that we directly, although we're always happy to chat with all of our families. But the Title I chair and the supports come from Sharon Rencher's office, and she happens to be under the Division of School Leadership because that work is tied with the SLT and all of those parts, right? So that being said, we have gone through a couple of the channels. Legal has reviewed it twice. So we are really at the very tail end, hoping to wrap this up very soon. I agree, Randy, and I appreciate your patience, so that we can move that forward and put that to the PEP for voting. So we are at the home stretch. So just wanted you to know that. And Sharon's team has looked it over. And so we just need to make sure that our union partners, right? So we have to bring it up to CSA, and we also have to bring it up with the UFT, because these are all things that need to be recognized and acknowledged by all members that will be affected and all our stakeholders. So we're almost there. But thank you for asking. But it's going to be a great opportunity for our Title I chairs to really have be part of the conversations in ways that are really important. So we're really excited about that and grateful for all of you for voicing that as a need for so many, and pushing us there. And then just when we finish that, we're going to start again with A660. So be ready for that, because Randy will not let me just let that go. So be on the lookout for that working group. But it's all great. And it's always been very good. So I appreciate you all. I don't know if you have any more questions for me. I'll pass it back over to the chair.
Are there any questions from the members for Dr. Christina? Anyone that has not spoken? Randy? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I think we are all good. And now we are going to, on the next item on the agenda with Anthony Aguilar, Anthony's hot topic. Anthony, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everybody. So yes, I have two hot topics for you today. One is the quarterly meetings with the principal, and then one is interim financial reporting. So as of right now, PTAs should be partaking in quarterly meetings. This should be the second one. The first one should have happened in the beginning of the school year. The second one should be happening now, where you're discussing any fundraisers or past fundraisers that have occurred, brainstorming best practices for those. You should also be talking about any holiday events going on within the school, so that everybody is on the same page, and then preparing for any upcoming fundraisers just to make sure everything is solidified when it comes to places uh, of these events, and making sure that they are ready and you got approval from the principal to use these spaces. Also, the interim financial report, that is something you can discuss as well with your principal if need be. So this interim financial report is due in January, so I want to bring it up now so that you are prepared. I'm going to share my screen just to show what it looks like. Give me 1 second. So this is what the form looks like essentially. So if you see here on the top of the form, it says beginning balance. That is when you started your term on the PAPTA. That's the balance you got when you received all the banking information. You put that there. If your PTA does collect any dues, membership dues, anything that collected goes right underneath. Then you see here any income that you have received from any sales, such as candy sales, picture sales, things of that nature, you can put together. Right at this section, for each sale, you do not have to also list everything that you did. You can lump it up. So say if I had a picture sale, right? Or a bake sale. Let's use bake sale. That's easier. Um, and you got money from different areas. You don't have to separate them. You can all put it in one lump sum and put your total. And then the next fundraiser will go right under there. And you will keep that going until you have written everything down. The sum total, as you see here, is everything combined, okay? Don't forget about your membership dues. Don't forget about your beginning balance. So everything that you see here, all the columns, should be added up, and you should put your grand total here. The next page is expenditures, so any money that you put out for these events. The same thing as the top, as I said before, you can group them up into categories of different events. Do that same thing here, and then you subtract it, and then as you see this bottom section here, your grand total from page 1 plus your grand total from page 2 equals your final balance. Then you have signatures, from the president and treasurer here. Once you are done with this form, please give this form into either your parent coordinator or whoever is designated by the principal to input this information. It is vital that we have this information for compliance reasons. So please fill this out and hand it to that person. Last but not least, something that should have been done in the beginning of the year is creating goals for your PAPTA, just to keep you focused on what the PAPTA wants to do, right? If you haven't done that already, gather with your executive board, come up with some things that you want to do by the end of your term, and that's just a way to keep you focused on what you want to do for the community as a whole. And that's pretty much it for my section.
Chair, may I ask Anthony some questions? Anthony, there were some questions that CPAC had sent over that I just want to make sure everyone gets the answer to. So PTA is not having a full board. What should you be doing to support these schools? Many PTAs do not have a treasurer or recording secretary or both. Do you have any recommendations as to what makes a PTA full and functional? That's important to just make sure we're all clear on. And then, I can definitely support with some ideas about how to make that happen. And then the next question is, how do SLTs function if no PTA mandated person is there? You can give the short answer and I can give the longer answer to that. But those are the two questions.
All right. So first and foremost, reaching out to your constituents is most important, right? So backpacking, robocalls, if your school is using any apps like Remind, so on and so forth, send out notifications on all those platforms everywhere you can. If you have a PTA bulletin board, put that information there so that when parents are coming in the school, they see that information. Another thing that you can do is try to use events that are happening within the school to advocate for your PTA. For instance, if you have a CBO that's doing registration for after school, you should be there at the table just giving out your flyers as well. We're looking for X, Y, and Z, or we're having X, Y, and Z. Come on, show up. Um, that is a great way. Also, uh, linking up with your president's council is a good way to try to work out our different avenues that work, right? Shows as well. Go to shows and try to get more involvement in your PTA. So, as you know, your executive board are three main members: your president, your secretary, and then your treasurer. That's your executive board. And then you may have any other members that are a part of your executive board that are on your bylaws. So those people are important as well. Um, so with that being said, that is one of the major ways to get involvement on your PTA is working with the school. Um, when you don't have, say, your president, that for your PTA, that means you don't have essentially your mandated member for your SLT. So that's what we have to try to work on. Um, that is important. Depending on your bylaws, quorum is different for SLTs, right? So some bylaws say 50% plus one, and it doesn't really talk about who the members are, just as long as it's 50% plus one. But we do want to get that resident on that board, right? Because they're taking the information and bringing it back to the PAPTA and then distributing that information to all the stakeholders within the school. So that is important. Work with your FLC, FSC to try to get more involvement, like I said before, within the school to try to fill those vacancies. Um, Last but not least, if quorum is a problem, reach out to your FLC, FSC, and if they can help, also connect with your FACE liaison for strategies in supporting your PAPTAs. Christina?
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony. And just to be, I, I mean, I don't know how more direct we could be, the chancellor and I around saying the same thing, but if your school does not have a PTA, because you know that, or a school does not have a PTA because they haven't been able to hold elections, etc. We want to know and we want to be supportive, whether it's by activating your PC, who can give you those supports, or supporting the FLC to activate and support the PC in that space. We will do whatever it takes to support your school community or any of the schools in your district. So please let us know. Um, but if the SLT is functioning without a functioning PTA, you should also let us know because then it's not really happening. And so please let us know so that we can do something. There are 1,600 schools. There are 30 something of us. We are not everywhere, but you know what the nice thing is that we have an army full of president's councils, um, just like you, and we have CPAC, and those are the folks, boots on the ground, as Shirley would always say, who will tell us, who can tell us, and we're more than happy to keep everything in confidence and be as supportive. That is, our job is not to divulge information. Our job is to make sure that parents are empowered and they're part and partners in these conversations. And there's a reason why these structures exist. And we want to make sure that we not just honor them, but uphold them as well. And so please let us know, because if we don't know, we can't really do anything about it. And if you don't tell us, there's not enough general stuff that I can say to get to the problem, right? So the chancellor can say make general statements that your SLTs have to have functioning PTAs, otherwise the SLT is not functioning. But we won't know unless someone tells us. So please, please, please tell us, because many of you have told me things in the past, or Anthony or Jesse, you tell us things. Most of the times are, you should check out. And I'm like, I can't check out all of the schools in District 20. You should think about, right? But then there are others of you that are very specific and clear about this school is doing this, and those things we do our very best. We always don't get to it, but at least we put people on notice, and we make sure that they realize that other people are watching and that other people are aware of what's happening, and we provide the supports or the interventions that may be necessary. So please, 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 just echoing the chancellor's words, make sure you let us, me, Jesse, Anthony, CPAC chairs, whoever you feel the most comfortable with letting us know, just let us know. And we're happy to support.
One thing I forgot to mention is continuously having your elections, right? So if you have not filled these vacancies, continue to have these elections into those positions are filled. PAPTAs don't cease to function until after 60 days of no business taking effect. So that's what I will leave it as. And one other thing I want to mention is just happy holidays. And I want to thank everybody for joining this meeting. I know you have a lot of work on your plates and it doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate all the work you do and all the meetings you attend to support your families and your community.
Anthony, there's a question on the
Sure.
chat. Rima's question around is, if the vacancy happens and after succession you do not have to attempt the election before expedited, is it just expedited? I mean, I don't
So
know if you understand. Okay.
I I think I get what she's
Okay.
asking. So after a vacancy has taken place or somebody has resigned, yes, try to fill it through succession. If you have succession clause in your bylaws, right? That's one thing we always have to make sure we're doing is looking at our bylaws to make sure we're in compliance with our bylaws. If that person doesn't want to fill that seat through succession, then you do have an election. Yes, it's an expedited election because the only time elections take place, regular election, is in the spring. Everything after that is an expedited election. Does that answer your question, Rima?
Yeah. She'll come on. Yes, she says. Thank you. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that it is prime time for all of you. Chair, if you don't mind me making one announcement. Perfect. I The CEC elections are underway. We will be launching our application in January 13th to be exact. On January 9th, we will have a huge press party here, which I will make sure to invite you all to show up, or at least watch the live stream. But all of that to say that we are all geared up to do that, and President's Council plays a huge part in hosting the candidate forums. It is the way where we are ensuring that all communities have access to the candidates that have decided to run in your districts. So we need you. We want to put it on your radar because in February, we will, along with our FLCs, start scheduling those forums. We are very, very hopeful that this campaign will get a lot of more folks to apply, which means that we will make sure that this forum is very tight and the planning has to happen as soon as we close the application process. So that being said, please respond to us. We're going to need your help. You are the most important part of probably the whole election process. Some of you may be running for your CECs, but whether you are or you're not, it is Randy's not, but she will be. We have other plans. But whether you are or you are not, what is very, very, very important is that you are ensuring that your community has access to all of the information they need so that they are ready and prepared to vote. Um, and part of voting is awareness of who is even running, right? And there's folks that just don't know that the CECs exist. They don't understand what they do. They may know and not be interested. And you don't have to be interested in running, but you certainly should be interested in voting for the folks that represent your community. And so you are all the boots on the ground. You know your districts, you know your PTAs, you know your school communities, and we need them to understand the importance of attending these forums, the importance of the forums in and of themselves, and to know that you are hosting them. And that's the truth, that this is a community project and you are a huge part of this work. And I think that's really important for the community to know because we can get caught up in the it's a CC election and not realize that President's Council plays such an integral part. And so I want to thank you ahead of time. I want to put it on your radar as you go on your holiday breaks and take a break from me and each other and the school and just enjoy your families. I definitely want you to be on the lookout for that email that's coming from us saying we're going to need your help. Chair, I think I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yes, yes, yes. And all the information that you just share is very important. A lot of people, again, everything comes to engagement, right? We have to like tell people, hey, CC elections, you know, the forum. And I know each of the borough hold the citywide elections. So please just like be aware of the information that is being shared. If you don't know, it's okay. We're here to learn together. I didn't learn everything in one day. You know what I mean? Like did not even a year. It took me maybe like 2 years to like know a lot of things. Every single day, I still learn. I still learn something new. And again, we are here to learn together. We're not here to shame someone for not knowing. This is our forum, so we can continue learning together. And thank you so much for all the information. Thank you, Anthony. Hot topic. I love it. And right now we have, does anyone have, we are right on time. It's 11:54. We have a minute to spare. Does anyone have any district or borough news, any events? Please raise your hand. What I serve? It went away. Randy, yes?
I'm trying to find my raise your hand feature. Yeah, it's just one of those days. I just wanted to share, for Brooklyn High School President's Council, we actually held a training, PTA 101, PTA 101, for all our Brooklyn High School presidents and executive boards. And it was definitely well received. And the question was asked why we didn't hold it sooner. So the reason we didn't hold it sooner, we were doing trainings in July and August for those that were elected by June. But unfortunately, the majority of our PAs and PTAs were not elected by September. So we chose to hold off and wait to allow for the majority of them to be elected. So we shared that how they can help get these trainings early, and not just in our district, but I'm sure in other districts, is by making sure that their PTAs are elected, the PAs and PTAs are elected by June, so that their president's councils are elected by June, therefore starting to share and train and teach and learn in July and August so that they are prepared to start in September. So we did this. It was Brooklyn North, Brooklyn South, and CUNY Urban Assembly. So this was like the first ever, and anyone that attended, I hope you thought it was as great as what we've been hearing it was. And we look forward to future workshops and trainings for our parent leaders.
Absolutely. I literally like encourage like have these elections by June. If you like if you did it didn't happen, you didn't make quorum, let's schedule it for 10 days after. Send in the notice, engage your parents, let them know what it is also, because a lot of people are just like, oh, the title of President's Council, but you don't know what is your role. You don't know what are your duties, right? Yes, Caroline, go ahead.
Oh no, no, I was writing all the wave you had going on right now. I didn't want to just interrupt.
No,
Um,
go ahead.
well, no, it's just we're sharing out what's going on in our district, and luckily, we've had the wonderful experience of having an SLT refresher for the whole district. That was great. We had Dr. Crystal Lindsay from I believe the Bureau, the Federal. I forget the entire title. I'm so sorry, but she gave like a full overview of the ins and outs of SLT. Structure, and as well as the Title I importance of being part of a Title I pack and the 1% that's for parents. A lot of great information. We had a really good show out of Title I parents that are the chair. And then after that, we had what is it called? I'm sorry, legislative breakfast hosted by the CEC. So that was really great too, because we got to bring in council members into the district and talk about, what they're doing in our community to emphasize the importance of, the students and the funding that's going on around them and their interests as far as the community as well. So that was great to have that one-on-one time. And then I did want to give everyone here a link, because I love PTA Link, right? Which was started by parents from the pack. So there is an event going on today through Zoom, and I'm put the link inside the chat, and I'll probably give it to you, Rosa, if you want to share that out through an email. But pretty much they are having a webinar called Getting Together Community Building for PA and PTAs. It seems that they continuously have started to bring back these webinars, and they had one in September that was really great. So just wanted to share that with everyone in case they were interested and had some time tonight to reach out and watch it. So I'll put that in the link.
Absolutely. Yeah, please put it in the link. We'll send it out. And also in the chat, I see District 29 gave away 1,000 toys to the families. This is incredible. I'm a mama of District 2, 4, and 5. So in District 4, we also had SLT Title I refresher. Literally yesterday at 4:30, Dr. Crystal gave us a whole run through of everything that we already know. Like, as a parent leader, I already know, but it's always great to have a refresher because you will forget something. So I do want to thank also Dr. Crystal, because she has a lot of information, is very supportive of each of our districts. Yes, Veronica. District
Hi.
17.
Thank you. I just want to give an update on what I'm doing from my district. I'm waiting on confirmation from 2 hospitals for the children ward, where I'm going to take some of the young ladies to give out toys to the kids who are not going to be home for Christmas. And also, there's a nursing home. We're taking a little tokens, Christmas cards and a little tokens to visit the elderly who, it's in a nursing home or whatever facility, if they permanent there. So that is what I'm doing on behalf of my community. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. And now we are going to share the minutes. So we can, 1 second, if I can, is this it? Oh my goodness. 1 second. There we go. It's not working. Oh, there we go. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So, who we are? We are elected parent leaders representing all New York City public schools, students, and their families. We are comprised of 38 President's Council. The Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council, known as CPAC, ensures that parents' voices are heard. We are always striving for excellence, equity, and opportunity for all. We collaborate with different stakeholders and work together to provide quality and useful information. That being said, before this, oh my God, I don't know what I did. Okay, before this, there we go. Okay, so now we are going to put in the minutes. I'm going to stop sharing and put in the minutes so we can vote on them. If I can find the minutes, that will be awesome. There we go. And please share. Okay, can everyone see the minutes? I cannot see anyone, so please shout it out.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so these are the minutes sent out, written by Ashley. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if anyone had the chance to review. It was already sent out yesterday. We provided a little bit, more time for everyone to review the minutes. Do you want to take a minute to review it? Please let me know and thumbs up. I'm just gonna go like this, and then if anyone wants to make a motion or if you see something that is incorrect, please let us know. And by the way, October minutes was not sent out. I already mentioned that. And I know that Ashley did a pretty good job with all these minutes. It's like 4 pages long. Maybe I'm going too fast. Please let me know. And it was already sent out. Please, if anyone can raise your hand and make a motion to adopt the November minutes as it is. Queens, is that a motion?
Yes, it is. Making a
Thank you so,
motion to approve.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyone can second it, please?
Mr. Straight, second.
Thank you so much. Okay, and the November minutes only are adopted for yes. Okay. Thank you so much. We are going to table the October minutes because we don't have them. And lastly, but not least, where's my beautiful slide? There we go. Okay. And lastly, come on, computer. Oh my God. There we go. I literally have so much joy preparing these slides. We are extremely and truly grateful to work together with all stakeholders for our children because their safety, education, and success is our overall mission. We are here working literally 24/7. I literally don't sleep, but I just love it. Like the work gives me power and energy, and just want to share our beautiful CPAC tree. You see our beautiful pictures. I am guys. If you want to unmute and say something, the executive board, please do so. I am one of those leaders that like everyone's voice to be heard. Um, so please say something before we go to adjourning the meeting.
I'll say something. Rosa, I think you're doing a great job. I really enjoy your meetings. I think this little tree is adorable with everyone's pictures, and your vibe and your jolliness comes through. And these meetings are very informative, and I'm very happy to be part of them. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just want to wish
Randy,
every single
Erica?
person a very happy holiday. And, all this energy that we do put, it just emphasizes how important everything in parenthood can be. And thank you so much for everyone just continue to make the space for us to learn and continue to provide each other with this knowledge. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Anyone else? This is your forum. This is your platform. We are safe and we are able to share our knowledge and we always learning together.
Okay, I just want to wish everyone who celebrates a happy and healthy holiday, happy and healthy new year. And just want to thank all the president's councils for all you do for your PAs and PTAs in your districts and boroughs. Thank you to all our FLCs, FSCs, superintendent staff that are filling those roles while they have vacancies. Thank FACE for all they do. As long as we're parents and we're included in the partnership and the collaboration, we're always going to have successful New York City public schools for our children and our families. So thank you all, and I wish you happy and healthy.
Anyone else? Josephine, I'm not putting you on the spot. Erica.
And I just want to thank everyone for being here and echo everything that was just said, and definitely get some rest during the December. Come January, we have elections, we have interim reports, and before we know it, we're running for our seats again. So we want to definitely wish everybody the best holiday, preempt for the hot, happy new year, and rest, relax, and we look forward to seeing everybody at our January meeting.
Thank you so much, everyone. And also, just in case if you don't know it already, our next meeting in January is January 9th of 2025. Crazy, the year is ended. This is unbelievable. And everything that we do is with joy because of our children. And again, I have to continue saying it. We work together. We are here because of our children for you. Sorry. Thank you everyone so much. And if I can have a motion to adjourn the meeting, that would be awesome.
Hold on. I, Veronica Clark from District 17, make the first motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you so much, Veronica. A second motion.
I'll second the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, happy holidays to everyone. And we hope to see you soon. And thank you. Keep on being active and advocating for our children. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great holiday.
You too. Did you stop the YouTube live?
I'm
Because it
trying
takes
to.